This is Phemale-Centrics. We are the first and only female-hosted Phish community podcast. I'm Donnie B, and today, actually, my husband Jason's sitting in with us. Hi, Jason. Awesome. Super awesome, because so we are rolling into episode 55, and today we are going to be interviewing the one and only Chris Frantz, who is the drummer for the Talking Heads and Tom Tom Club, and married to the one and only Tina Weymouth. And he is putting out a book July 21st called Remain in Love. I got a little YouTube thing showing that here. So I have to say, I mean, you know, Donnie B blabs. Donnie B blabs a lot about Phish and a lot about everything, and I just happen to be blabbing at the right time. So, and I think I called you, Jason, right away. So I was somebody that I was working with, and I was talking about how I interviewed Eric Gold, the bass player from Pink Talking Phish, and he was very interested. And so I explained who Pink Talking Phish are, which is the Pink Floyd Talking Heads Phish cover band. And he kind of had, you know, gave me a look or whatever. And that's when he told me he was really good friends with Chris. And I had that like Elaine moment in Seinfeld. I was like, shut up, you know? And he was able to hook up the interview, and it turns out that he is releasing this book of memoirs, which will be out on July 21st, called A Remain in Love. And I was sent the copy of it. So I've been reading it, and it's just an amazing story about, you know, the beginning of Chris's life, him meeting Tina and David at RISD, and this beautiful love that is between both of them, as well as, you know, the beginning of new age music and their influence on hip hop. And so, yeah, so this is just a big one for us. And yeah, so Jason, what do you think?
I'm just happy to be here. I think he was a sweetheart. Mm-hmm. Really easy to talk to. Really excited. We, spoiler alert, we tried to convince him to come to a Phish show with us.
He's coming with us, you guys. We're going to bring him.
Really interesting, really fun to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his music means a lot to us. Mm-hmm. And I think it means a lot to people in the scene. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting. It's a good listen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I did reach out to a few people within our community. So I do want to thank Tom Marshall, because he helped to add some ideas for an idea for questions, as well as Jesse Braun, who is the drummer from the Talking Heads cover band called Start Making Sense, and Zach Berwick, who is the drummer for Pink Talking Phish, as well as Ari Fink, who is runs the Phish radio on XM, and our own Dr. Stephanie Jenkins, because just love her. So she had some great questions to add in here as well. So they're sort of all mixed in with all the rest of the questions. We only had an hour with him, but we are psyched to be able to have that time with him. And I guess, reminder that we are part of the Osiris Podcast Network. So if you want to check out more podcasts, go to osirispod.com. And we're about to just lead into a quick little commercial with my friend Abby and Shannon Moran's yoga studio called Indigo Wellness. And she'll tell you all about how to find them. But I just wanted to give them a quick little spot here on Phemale-Centrics, because oh my goodness, she puts me to sleep every night. Well, I know I'm supposed to be like sitting up with this meditation, but she does these amazing body scans, and they're about 20 minutes long, and those are free on their website, but they also have online yoga classes as well. So listen to this next video here or voice clip, and check them out.
Hey, Phemale-Centrics fans. This is Abby Webster Moran, co-owner of Indigo Wellness Studios. We're located in Moline, Illinois, but thanks to technology, you can surrender to the flow with us online. Enjoy private yoga one-on-one or with your group with us from anywhere in the world, and enjoy free resources on our Facebook page. Visit our website at www.indigowellness.info and find yourself inside.
All right, we are back with Chris Frantz, who is the drummer from the Talking Heads, as well as Tom Tom Club. And he just is about to release July 21st, which I got this in the mail yesterday, Chris, so thank you.
Cool.
His book, Remain in Love. Yeah, it looks fantastic. So I've been riffing off of the white one, and this one is like the gold one that stays on the shelf. Don't lend that one out.
Nice cover.
Yeah, right? I know. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah.
And it's nice to do female things.
Absolutely. And joining us today as my Artie Lang, we like to call him, is but he's not really like that. But my husband, Jason.
Hey, Chris, how are you? It's so glad to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Jason. It's a great pleasure.
I got to tell you before we start, your music has made me dance more than maybe 95% of the rest of the music in the world.
It's like an instant dance party.
Well, that makes me very happy. That that's the desired effect.
I'm not sure if she told you, but our first dance was to "This Must Be the Place."
I think Dawn did mention that. That's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
It holds a very special heart. Well, an okay special spot.
Oh yeah, just okay.
Just kidding. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
So glad to have you.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I do say so myself.
Yeah. So, when I found out this opportunity to interview you, I talk about my tail wagging. I get all excited about these things. And so, people who don't necessarily know Phish that well, but obviously know Talking Heads or Tom Tom Club, they're like, what? You do a Phish podcast? How are you interviewing, Chris Frantz? And it's such an influence on music genres all around the world, but especially with the rock and roll piece, So I'm like, well, this is perfect. We're gonna connect and talk about all of the things. So this is why I was able to fit you in on the Phish podcast here. So
I think it's safe to say that Phish and Talking Heads have a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure there would be a Phish without a Talking Head.
Yeah. No. Yeah, they speak of it often, but so I'm gonna jump into this amazing book of yours, and again, I just feel really special that I was able to read all this and get into it before even it was released and before we talking to you. So. Right. One of the things, just across the board while I'm reading your book is how much your ability to recall names and dates and details of stories is unbelievable. So, yeah. So
people ask me, did I keep a journal or a diary? And I'm still kicking myself that I did not. I knew I should be. The whole time I said, you should be keeping a journal, Chris. And sometimes I would even go out and buy one, but then I would not journal,
Yeah.
But fortunately my memory is still pretty darn good. And also I was able to borrow Tina's date books. They were not not diaries or journals, but they were date books that, like you buy at the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Sure.
And they have King Tut on the cover, or Matisse or something.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, she had one of those for each year in the late 70s, early 80s. And she kept like the name of the venue, the amount of people that showed up and bought tickets, whether she thought it was a good show or a bad show, and how many encores we got. Because we always measured like the success of the show by how many times they ask us back.
Yeah.
And so I had that to go on, which was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Then she would say like, a wonderful gig, 3 encores, dinner after the show, and or she would say, terrible night, never come back to this place again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right. So with those books, is that primarily how you were able to start this process and of creating this?
Yeah, well, my agent said, Chris, we need 3 things: an outline, a synopsis, and 3 chapters. They don't have to be long, just 3 chapters. And so I did that. And that's how I got started. But I did do an outline, very, very, not a very detailed outline, but just like what happened in different years.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really stick to it.
Yeah.
But it helped me get a book deal.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're good. You're good there. And a spot on Phemale-Centrics. What? So, hang on a second.
That's my, sorry, somebody's
That's all right.
messaging me.
Okay. All right.
I apologize.
That's all right. So, a good portion of your book at the very beginning, and I loved how you went about this. So you were born May 8th of 1951. And in the deep South. So my mother is from Arkansas. She was born just 2 years earlier than you. Yeah. So, and you seemed like you were, really enamored by music, and it really grabbed you as an early, at a very young age. So did your parents have a lot of music playing, or did they play instruments in the house while you were young? And is this something that kind of got you going, or what sort of influenced you in your own choices?
Neither of my parents were musicians, and they didn't sing around the house or anything like that either. But they were real appreciators of music, and they would go to they collected a few records. They had a whole lot of great, from when they were younger, calypso records and mambo records, because they lived for a while in Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I think I was conceived in Puerto Rico.
There you go.
But those were like 78s. They gave them to me at a certain point. 78 lacquers. That if you dropped them, they would shatter.
Oh, they do shatter.
Yeah.
They do shatter. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they would go to the symphony, and they like to watch music on TV, Ed Sullivan or whatever. And they weren't cornball, like they didn't watch Lawrence Welk or anything like that.
There was some little style in there but world beats though too, which, that's something that a lot of people say about your drumming. And Talking Heads in general, So I found it really interesting to really how much time you put into the book as far as really where you came from, and the amount of musicians you named off. And like your first record, for instance, was The Big Bad John.
Yeah, that was the first record I bought.
Yeah,
by Jimmy Dean.
What was it about that like pulled you into it?
Well, it's a funny story. I was living in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had just recently moved there to this subdivision that had a lot of families, a lot of children. So there were a lot of kids my age, and we used to, do stuff the kids do. But one interesting thing was there was this one kid. I wish I could remember his name. I can't, but I remember what he could do, and he could really sing. He was a kid who could really sing, like a professional, and everybody was really impressed. But he was terribly shy, also. So what he used to do is, it's so funny. He used to sit in the bushes with a hose, like a garden hose, and he would sing into the hose, and the rest of us, however long it was, maybe 50 feet away, could have the hose up to our ear and hear what he was singing. And one day he sang Big Bad John, and I thought, damn, that's a good song. And he would sing it again. If you say one more time, he would do it again. He never got tired.
But always in the bushes, though. Never like, I'm going to get on stage. Did he ever end up doing anything with himself at all?
At this point, I was in the second grade.
Oh, sure.
So we kind of lost touch with each other.
Kind of.
I moved. He moved, but he was amazing. Had an amazing voice for such a young kid. And then I guess it was the next day. I got on my bike and I rode to the department store. We didn't really have a record store, but we had a department store with a record department. And I went in there and I asked for Big Bad John. And the lady said, "Oh, that's the number one song in the country today." And I said, "Cool, I'll take it."
Right.
And, yeah.
Wore that one right down there.
You don't see too many hose acts these days.
Yeah, I know, right?
Unfortunate.
The hose in the bush act.
Yeah.
So you were talking about when your family moved to Pittsburgh, how you started at a new school, which is the Shady Side Academy, where it seemed to have that kind of like cool, beatnik thing introduced to you for the first time. And you discussed how some of these classes really changed your life, but there was one in particular, which is an art class by David Miller. That one in particular you really noted changed your life. So how old were you when you met him, and in what context did it, why was it that significant of a influence for you?
I believe I was 16, and I was in my, I was in my junior year of high school. And I just gotten my driver's license, and I took this class called Studio Art. You could sign up for, there were certain things that were required, and then there were electives. And I thought, studio art, that sounds good. I like to draw. I'll try that. And so I walked in, and David Miller was the teacher. After this particular school, he taught for many years at it's in Sarasota,
New York, Sarasota,
Sarasota, New York. Yeah. Anyway, a famous college there that he taught painting for many years, but he was teaching studio art, and he happened to be in the Army Reserve. And my father was active in the Army Reserve. And so when I came in, he said, "Chris Frantz, are you related to Colonel Frantz?" And my father was a colonel at the time. And I said, "Yes." He said, "He's a good man. I like Colonel Frantz." And so I thought, great. This was during the middle. This was during the middle of the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of anti-military feeling, particularly among students. And so I didn't usually talk about my military background.
Depends on who's asking.
Yeah, that's right. It depends on who's asking. But this guy was cool about it, and he opened up this whole new world to me, which is the world of contemporary art. I've been exposed to the Impressionists, the Romantics, the classical arts, all of that, but I never really I didn't know anything about contemporary art except for Andy Warhol. I knew about Andy Warhol, and
that's pretty funny coming from you. I must say.
So he taught me about people like Robert Rauschenberg, who later did an album cover for Talking Heads. He taught me about Willem de Kooning. He taught me about Mondrian and Christo and Ed Ruscha and all these great artists that were alive. And I thought, oh, artists that are actually alive and doing it. That's cool. I thought I would like to be one of those people.
Sure.
And so I got into painting, I really got into it. And he was like my guide and my teacher. And some people say you can't teach art, but I believe that some people can. And he was one of them. And it was a great experience for me. And I ended up he recommended that I go to the Rhode Island School of Design in Providence, Rhode Island. And my parents were like, "Oh, Chris, how will you ever support yourself?"
Just give me a few years, Ma.
It's a legitimate concern, when you're talking about being an artist, because there's certainly no guarantees. And Mr. Miller, David Miller, said to my parents, "Well, Rhode Island School of Design is not just any art school; it's the Harvard of art schools." And my parents,
RISD.
RISD. And my parents said, "Oh, the Harvard of art schools. That's okay. That's
fine.
Cool."
Yeah. He'll be fine if he goes there.
Was there music involved in the class, or was it all your normal painting, sculpture, things of that nature?
I'm sorry. The beginning of your question
was there music involved with Mr. Miller?
We would listen to records and also the radio while we painted, and so it was a pretty good sized room, that painting studio, and he would always have music on. Yeah.
So 1 second here. All right. So when you headed off to RISD, so you had started playing the trumpet and you had moved into the drums because the trumpet, you couldn't really make it work, right? When you were a kid.
That's correct. It wasn't. Trumpet was not happening for me.
Nope. So you started that. Yeah, I know. Thank goodness. Yeah. You probably could have made the work, but no, we'll go with the drums.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
We'll take drums.
So, when you, so when you went to RISD is when, like explosions happened, because this is where obviously you met Tina and you met David and you really started getting into playing music and whatnot. I'll say that the one thing I really love about this book is the subtitle with Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, and Tina, and how you named it Remain in Love. And I am like the biggest mushy face love person of all time.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I love how you tied, Tina in with your bands, because I know that it can be difficult for musicians who don't have a partner that's not playing music, because it really is like the mistress, the music is like the mistress sort of thing. But you've been able to, have Tina part of that the whole time. So,
can we back up for a second?
Yes.
How did you meet Tina?
Yes. Well, that's what I was just going to get into. Yeah.
Oh, well, I met Tina one day I was sitting in this little park that's in the center of the RISD campus where everybody walks by, and it's on a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And Tina came. Well, I was sitting there with a friend who was one of the models, one of the artist models. His name was Charlie the Model. He was a big, tall, barrel-chested guy. Sure. And when he wasn't modeling, which he would wear overalls. And I was sitting with Charlie in this. We called it the RISD Beach, this little park. And it was the beginning of the school year, my sophomore year, my second year there. And sitting there talking to Charlie, and all of a sudden this girl comes whizzing by on a yellow, like an old yellow, what we used to call an English bike, a 3-speed bicycle. Yeah. And she had the seat up real high, and so her legs were extended, right. And as she pedaled by and the wind was blowing her hair, and I thought, holy mackerel. And I said, Charlie, did you see her? And Charlie said, oh, that's my friend Martina. And Charlie used to call everybody he knew my friend,
okay.
Mm-hmm. Was his friend. And so I thought, Martina, I've got to get to meet Martina somehow. And the next day, I had a figure painting class taught by a guy named Richard Merkin. Richard Merkin is quite famous because he's no longer alive, but he was one of the characters on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Wow. Because the artist, Peter Blake, who did that album cover for the Beatles, was friends with Richard Merkin, so he put him in there next to Muhammad Ali, I think. but anyway, Richard Merkin was quite a flamboyant character, and he taught a great figure painting class. Mm-hmm. And this was the first day, and I went in and I set up the easel, set up my canvas, got out my paint box, and I noticed the far end of the room, there was Martina.
Yay.
Yeah.
And I thought, better go sit next to her.
I thought, how am I gonna introduce myself? How should I of course I could have just walked up and said, hi, my name's Chris, but I had to think, and this friend of mine who was kind of a nut, I guess you could say, said he walked up to Tina at the end of the class and looked at her painting and said, obviously, you have no idea what you're doing. And I was appalled.
Yeah.
My friend had said, but I thought, okay, here's my chance. And I walked up to Tina and I said, I'm sorry for my friend. Obviously, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I introduced myself, and we got to know each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me Charlie the model in overalls said, oh, that's my friend Martina, and here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite something.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it seems like, once you guys met and connected, it was pretty immediate. You was just really in love really quickly.
Well, she had another boyfriend when we first met, and I had another girlfriend. Mm-hmm. But it took a while, but it was great because we became friends before we became romantically linked.
Yes. Gotcha. And shortly after meeting Tina, you met David Byrne. And so, one of that I was going to say before with Tina, which we had talked about, but, how did you first meet David? And then what was your first impression of him? And is this something you guys just started to, play music together right away? And did you both have the same drive to create a band and be, world famous rock stars?
Well, I think we both wanted to be, serious musicians and artists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think at that time we were really completely separating music from visual art.
Sure.
The two went hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But I had known David from. Let me start again. I had seen David on campus because he was our freshman year. He was enrolled in the school, and but he looked completely different. He had a very long, sort of Rasputin type beard and a short haircut that he clipped himself, so it was all like really choppy.
Yeah.
And he wore like thrift store clothes, like sort of like a lumberjack would wear. And
was this the early 70s?
This was 1970, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't have any classes with David, so although I would see him around, I didn't really know him.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess it was my junior year. A friend of ours named Mark Kehoe was making a student film about his girlfriend getting run over by a car, and he needed some music for the event where she gets run over.
Art students.
Said, what I want is something really dissonant and cacophonous that rises, crescendos, and then diminuendos.
And then someone gets run over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, oh, yeah, I can do that. He knew I played drums, and he said, I'm going to bring a friend who also plays guitar. And I said, fine, good. And I said, let's meet at where my drums are, which is at Tina's carriage house, where Tina was living. She was nice enough to let me keep my drums there. And so Mark came over with this guy named David Byrne, and we said hello. I said, oh, yeah. David had changed a lot. He now had this bleached blonde hair, and black eyebrows and black 5 o'clock shadow. And he was
how old
like
were you guys?
How old were we?
Yeah.
21?
Yeah.
20?
21 or so.
Sure. Early college. Mm-hmm.
Young adults.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we did the music for Mark. By the way, he doesn't remember any of it.
Who does it?
Mark
doesn't remember.
When I wanted to fact check this story, I called up Mark and I said, "Hey, Mark, remember when you introduced me to David Byrne and we did this?" He's like, "What? I don't remember that."
Just throw the unimportant things out. What?
That's good,
right?
So anyway, we did the music for Mark, and afterwards I said to David, I've been thinking of starting a band here at RISD to play at parties and things. Would you be up for that? And he said, yeah, I can play other things than just this. And I said, great. And we started this little band called the Artistics.
Where'd you come up with that name?
Yeah, it turns out we couldn't use it because an R&B group had already recorded under that name back in the I think the 50s, maybe the early 60s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So who came up with the Talking Heads?
Well, it was a friend of ours from RISD who was visiting. His name was Wayne Zeev. And Wayne also wrote the lyrics to Artists Only, which he gave to us to use. Wow. And Wayne was visiting us on the Lower East Side, staying in our loft with us. And he said, I was reading TV Guide, and TV Guide has a glossary of television technology terms.
Okay.
One of the terms for the technicians was talking head, which meant like you're seeing right now. Like
radio broadcast. What we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's known as the most boring, but also the most informative format.
Gotcha.
So we said, Talking Heads, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And we ended up using that name.
Yeah.
And
All
you know,
right.
had a good run with it.
All right. I think we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. This episode of Phemale-Centrics is brought to you by Section 119. 119 was founded by their two friends, Bob and Greg, who met in 2006. Since then, they've added their buddy Jake to customer services and their friend Shiv, who works on the designing. Total, they've been to over 400 shows, so they really do know what kids want on lot. They started off by making custom suits in New York City and slowly started to play with the donut pattern, which of course. And then they started making all kinds of different things. So since then, the Grateful Dead has approached them to be an officially licensed partner. Fishman wears their board shorts under his muumuu, and Mickey Hart wears the socks. Not too shabby. They sell all sorts of stuff, from dress shirts with subtle hints of donut patterns, casual shirts, Henleys, sunglasses, blazers with donuts and dead themes, socks, boxers, wallets, all sorts of things. So if you go to section119.com, that's section119.com, and enter the code Phemale-Centrics, with a PH, of course, upon checkout, you'll get 20% off your first purchases. They've shifted their immediate attention to making masks, partially to keep afloat during this time of uncertainty, but mainly to help protect the community. Our entire community is based on hugs and high fives and hoods, all great vehicles for Corona. Therefore, they're currently offering donut masks and dead bandanas to help stop the spread. For every order, they're donating a mask for a community in need. They're working their way down this list of essential workers, homeless shelters, and rehab centers. Some really, really great stuff going on here. So once again, we check these guys out. Section 119, that's section119.com. Enter the code Phemale-Centrics with a PH, of course, upon checkout, and you'll get 20% off. Thanks, guys. All right, we are back with Chris Frantz from Talking Heads and Tom Tom Club, discussing his new book, Remain in Love. So we're really talking about the early beginnings, the really early stages of when you met Tina and you met David, and how Talking Heads were... I'm sorry, hang on one second. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Lost you there for a second. All right.
Here, how about this?
Hey, there we go. Yes.
Woo!
We'll just put that on there. There you go.
Yeah.
With matching
It's
books.
so good.
What year was that photo taken?
This photo is taken by a fellow named Jimmy DeSena, who took the first photos of Talking Heads. And this would have been I think this would have been in 77. Maybe 76, but probably
CBGB
77
years.
Well, yeah. So that's what
Yeah.
I was just going to start to get into. So after Rizzy, you guys left there and the three of you moved to New York City when it was the Lower East Side, when it was really, really, rough area. And
It was rough, yeah.
yeah, for like understatement. It was like, with the book you were talking about.
It was so rough that I would actually be happy when I saw a police car come by.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's. But it was like the frontier for us, and we were not alone. I mean, Blondie lived one block away, and a couple of the Ramones lived 3 blocks away, and CBGBs was 3.5 blocks away, and Ornette Coleman was 1 block away. And
Yeah.
so it was like there was a whole scene.
Mhm.
Not that you could tell if you were driving down the street or walking down the street. You wouldn't think, oh, there's all these geniuses living here.
Right? Yeah, exactly. There's the birth of some new musical movement.
No,
of
it was
sorts.
it was like hell, you know, with the bums. We called them bums back then.
Mm-hmm.
Directing traffic and teetering out into the middle of the oncoming cars, drunk out of their minds, and prostitutes and
Yeah.
Sounds
you
like
know,
a good time.
guys in the park across the street from us with their conga drums and bongos playing like all night long.
Oh, wow.
And you know, it really got to be, you know, if you had no air conditioning and had to have the windows open, which we did
Yeah.
at night, it was kind of like living in a hellhole.
So did you guys start doing like or playing gigs in college at RISD, or did you say, oh no, we got to take this act to New York?
No, we went to New York after graduation, and actually I went home to Pittsburgh to work a job painting a mural so that I could make enough money. It was a mural for a hospital, and so I could make enough money to get started in New York.
Mm.
And it's a good thing I did, because you know, things were cheap back then, but not they weren't free.
Yeah, sure, of course. So when you moved into the neighborhood, now was CBGBs like your local place you guys started hanging out at, or was it you approached?
Yes,
yes. Okay. And the Ramones were already playing there, correct?
Yep. The Ramones, Television, Patti Smith, Wayne County. Who else was already playing there? Mink DeVille. Do you remember them? Mink DeVille? They were pretty good.
Yeah. While I was reading this book, I honestly had to have my phone with me, and I was just constantly looking up, you know, on YouTube, the different, you know, people you were mentioning, because there was a lot of names that I was unaware of. And when you guys moved there, Tina hadn't joined the band yet, and she hadn't started playing any instruments, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you guys, like, what made her, because I know you were pretty adamant, like, you got to join the band. Like, what was it that, you know, changed?
I really wanted her to join the band, but she felt that was probably not a good idea for several different reasons. And she was probably right, you know, like, but I kept thinking there's exceptions to the rule, you know. And I think she saw David and I trying to get it together, you know, try to get the band together, just the two of us, like trying, and not meeting anybody who had a similar aesthetic, not meeting anyone who would be the right person to join the band. So I think she finally just said, oh, the hell with it, I'll join the band. And she had been thinking about it for a while, unbeknownst to us, because she had been at this shop on 48th Street. She had been putting down like $5 here, $5 there for months until it was her probably 24th birthday, maybe. And her parents gave her $100, and that was enough to pay off the guitar.
Wow.
Which was a great guitar, pre-CBS, I guess it's called, Fender Precision.
Does she still have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I didn't know if, you know, I know there's a couple of things that were sent off to like the, you know, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and that sort of thing. So I didn't know, but she still has that. That's great, because it's a giant bass.
She still has this one. And it was the happiest days of my life when she came into walked into the door of the loft holding this guitar.
Mm-hmm.
She still didn't have an amplifier, but that was okay.
Did she know how to play it?
She taught herself.
Mm.
A lot of people think that David taught Tina how to play, but if you knew David the way I know David, you would know that he didn't teach Tina to play.
Yes.
He gave her some tips, I think, and said, this is this and this is that. But she taught herself to play.
Mm.
And her heroes were James Jamerson from the Motown band and Carol Kay. And I kept showing her this album by Susie Quattro, which had Susie's picture on the front playing the bass and looking really cool.
Uh-huh.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So she was a fast learner.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, and so you guys got engaged during this whole tour, and you got married and you had children, and meanwhile Tina Weymouth is your wife, where half the world is in love with her. I mean, you made little hints here and there about kind of people randomly coming in, but I mean she is just
how rude.
She's a glorious woman. She really is. So yeah, so I first of all, Jason and I were talking, I'm like, is this a very unique situation for as long as you guys have been together, 42 years, within this rock and roll band and whatnot, but to be as popular and as big as you are, how is it for you with all these, men just beelining past you and be like, where's Tina? And then what's your secret? What keeps you guys going? What's your secret for love? Yeah.
Well, let's see.
So we'll go with the first part first. How'd you fend off all the dudes?
Oh, it's easy.
I never really had to fend off the dudes. Mm-hmm. I always felt pretty secure in my, marriage with Tina. Yeah. After we were married. Before we were married, I was maybe a little bit concerned from time to time about, because she did have a lot of people who, let's say, appreciated her. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But none who appreciated her as much as I did. Right. Yeah. And she figured that out.
I can appreciate that on a much smaller scale.
So there was that, but when somebody like Dee Dee Ramone or even Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys makes a beeline for Tina, it's because he is highly attracted and interested in talking to her. Mm-hmm. But fortunately for me, Tina was always super cool with these guys.
Yeah. Well, that's what she comes across in as, it was you two, and you were solid, and you guys were in love, and she's a badass bass player and really confident and cool and whatnot, but you're her man. And so cool, Dee Dee Ramone and whoever, there was a few of them that just cracked me up. I was just, you're like, whatever,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. That's mine, so it's fine. But then I guess, what's your secret to staying in love, keeping in love, and what keeps your fire burning?
I think it's important to not forget to be romantic. Even though it might be a cliche, send roses on Valentine's Day. Red ones, mm-hmm. and make it a dozen, mm-hmm. and. Don't forget the chocolate, and
Valentine's Day is my favorite.
Go places just for the hell of it, for fun. Take a trip to Jamaica or something like that, and just have some fun together. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also important to keep a good sense of humor and laugh at her jokes.
Laughter stuff.
Does she laugh at your jokes?
Yeah. Is she laughing at yours?
Sometimes she does. Yeah.
Well, one of my big questions, like I was thinking about, like, well, you know, what am I going to say? Was like, I'm racking my brain. I'm not sure if I can think of another husband and wife couple that are bandmates.
Is
that a thing? What's it like being with your wife in your band?
Yeah, there's not very many, really. There must be people out there that I don't know about.
Well, I can't think of any.
But she's not in his band, but somebody told me that Little Steven and his wife have been married a very long time.
I'm not.
The only one I can think of is Stevie Nicks and what's his name from Fleetwood Mac, but that didn't.
Yeah, that didn't work
go so well.
No.
Songs written about that relationship.
Yeah.
So, you guys are starting to really propel. Like, so, you're out of college, you're in, CBGBs, you're really starting to take off. And there were two quotes that you had, or two things you had said in the book. One was earlier in the book and one was later in the book. And, I was speaking to you last night for a minute about just how both of those made me pause and sit down and write them down. And then I didn't really realize like how they connected afterwards. So I'm going to read those and I would like to know what your thoughts on that. So while recording your first album in 1977, you said, we were celebrating on our own everyday lives, philosophically reaching for a higher level of expression, something that was far greater than the sums of its parts. Well, 2 years later, you had already really started to branch out to other musicians and your styles and to add to your music. And while you were creating that song, Izimba, am I saying that right? Izimba?
Izimbra.
Okay, Izimbra, thank you.
Yeah.
You said, we were rock musicians who were looking for a way out of what had become a very predictable formula for playing and performing rock and roll. So I find that those are connected, but in two really different parts of your career. But what do those statements mean to you now?
Well, we were trying in our own way without sounding too pretentious about it. We were trying to raise the bar for ourselves, and challenge ourselves to do something that well, as Tina once said on American Bandstand to Dick Clark, we want to make our mark in music history.
Nice.
So, and that was really what it was. That we wanted to make our mark in music history, and we believed that popular music could be a fine art if you treat it like a fine art. If you act like a fine artist. And that goes beyond just mere entertainment. I'm not knocking the entertainers in any way because it's really good if you can be a good entertainer.
Yeah.
But it was something. It was some next level business.
Yeah, really. And so, and while this was happening, so as this is happening for you guys, you're creating these new sounds. You're starting to hear yourself on the radio and whatnot. So what was it like? Like, what did you have like this aha moment, or did you have one moment in particular where you were like, holy shit, we're famous. Like we did it. Like, was there like one moment like that, or did it just sort of like slowly kind of ease up, or all of a sudden it's just, because when it comes down to it, it's like, oh, we're all humans on the earth doing the same thing. But obviously everybody has these very different, and you got to be a rock star. So, was there like a moment where you were like, oh, wow, this is really happening? And like, is there anybody in particular that really surprised you as a fan? Maybe somebody from the music industry or an actor or anything like that?
We were very fortunate with Talking Heads and also Tom Tom Club. We got a recognition very quickly. with Talking Heads, it was really remarkable. It's like we played a couple of shows and we had our picture on the front page of the Village Voice. Mm-hmm. And if you lived in New York in those days, the Village Voice was, the Bible every week. That's told you what was happening and where to go. Mm-hmm. And so there was that. And then we were recognized by the New York Times. A guy named John Rockwell wrote about us for the New York Times around that same time. And, we'd only been playing for a couple of months.
This is all at CBGBs. This is even before you tours or anything like that. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Well,
at CBGB. So things happened for us very quickly. And I guess when we started getting these things like a best record of the year and from various critics, I guess it was at that point that I thought, wow, we're really doing it. What we wanted to do, we're really doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think for some members of the band, the pressure to excel was, they felt the pressure. Mm-hmm. When you're a musician, it's important to get enough sleep, and I don't think we get enough sleep.
No. I definitely hear you on that one. So one of the things that was really interesting to me was that, I feel like you guys are really known for creating this new wave sound and the post-punk era and whatnot. And, but it's almost like it's forgotten, or at least I forgot anyway, about how much Tom Tom Club with Genius of Love and whatnot really also influenced the early stages of hip hop, which was very much coming from these Black neighborhoods and whatnot, which you guys lived in those areas. So, to have your music influence these two huge pieces of pop music, I guess pop or popular music. Yeah, I guess pop music.
I think they created a genre of music because of the Talking Heads.
Right? Yeah, it's like new wave, new wave.
New age.
Yeah, new age. Yeah. So
no one sounds like the Talking Heads.
No.
No one sounds like you guys.
But then there was, I think I was right, like 57 times Genius of Love has been sampled for, different hip hop.
Quite a few times.
Yeah.
It wasn't just hip hop either. It was also R&B.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
People like Destiny's Child,
mm-hmm.
I think you guys put out some of the most...
That type of R&B.
Yeah, definitely. What you say?
I was going to say, I think you guys put out some of the most danciest of dance music of all time.
That's the best.
Like,
yeah, it's so much fun.
It doesn't matter what you're into. Mm-hmm. Once you get going, I start boogieing.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. We tried to be like the kind of, with Tom Tom Club, we tried to be the kind of band that would be good at a party,
You succeeded. Well, and that's the thing too. It's, it was after, Remain in Light that 79, you guys, all right, we're going to get ready. We're going to we need to write another start this other album. And so right after Remain in Light, you guys, so David and Jerry were going to go do something solo, and you and Tina were kind of like, what are we going to do? Because like the financial backing wasn't there. But she had been, and probably, I'm assuming as you mentioned a lot about her with the hip hop influence, the R&B and whatnot, and how, she went out and sort of pulled these pieces back in, and then you guys created Tom Tom Club, which turned into this gold album, which, at one point you're like, are we going to keep going? And then all of a sudden you have a gold album and it's not a Talking Heads album, How did that end up, going for you guys? And I guess in with David and Jerry as well.
Well, our record did better than theirs did. Ha ha.
Right.
But it was good. The success of Tom Tom Club, which was, a very pleasant surprise to everybody. And a lot of people didn't realize that Tom Tom Club had anything to do with Talking Heads for a long time. Mm-hmm. Then the word eventually got out, but the record was already a hit and nobody knew. But I think when we came back, when the four of us came back to work with Talking Heads again, I think there was some new respect for Tina and I, and I think it helped. It actually helped get the band motivated again.
Because you were immediately able to have this success and without an ego around in a way. There's a lot of that, it was tricky. It seemed like.
Yeah, David was not happy when he found out that we had a gold record before, and we had one and he didn't. He didn't like that. But hey, we came right back to Talking Heads to make another Talking Heads record because we love Talking Heads, and that was our mothership.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'd spoken to you before this about this, and I know that things were really tricky, and the breakup was hard, and I feel like when you Talking Heads, there's this big elephant in the room of like, how'd they break up? Why are they together? Are you going to go on tour again? All these sort of pieces, but you really handled this acknowledging him and his presence with a lot of integrity. It was very. And it wasn't like you had like jabs throughout but nothing to do with that. You really were just like very practical situations of how some of his aloofness, we'll say, really affected you guys when you were, in social situations and that piece. And I really, I would imagine that was really difficult, and I commend you on that one because I know that's.
Well, thank you very much. It was a difficult thing when Talking Heads stopped working together. It was just silly, but we let me put it this way. We still had to get it on one way or another. So now I'm writing books.
Yeah.
Right. I imagine being in a band is very hard.
Well, yeah, especially if it's
everyone
not
in the same direction and the same focus and the same everything. I mean, I don't know. I go to shows. I don't play shows.
Yeah, well, I think we're very fortunate in that we're all alive. All four members of the band are still alive.
You know what? It's the same thing. I'm like with my band, Phish, but same thing. It's just I can't fathom it going any other way. So to pull in that, we're kind of running out of time. I have so many more questions, but it's all right. We're going to talk about this. So to pull in the Phish piece. So, as I think I was saying before about, cities is a big piece of Phish's music now. And as well as.
Thank you for sending that. I watched that video.
Oh, were you able to see them? Oh, good. Yeah.
I liked what they did with cities. It's an interesting take on it. Funky.
Yeah, I sent the Magnaball City story. Yeah. Good version.
Nothing can burn down the house like a Talking Heads cover.
Yeah. And then that's the same thing with the, Cross-Eyed and Painless too. It's another one that just kind of gets going. And but I was my favorite moment, which I did send it on to you. I just sent it to you right beforehand, so I'm not sure if you got a chance to see it, but was from SPAC, and I want to say it was 2012.
Psycho Killer.
Yes, when they busted. So they were in the middle of this song.
My friend back from the dead, actually. He was resurrected. Not kidding.
They were in the middle of this song Tube, and then all of a sudden, hear don't. And what? Like our friend, like I said, he was like super sick. He's on the ground. He just like pops up. Oh.
Are you familiar with any of Phish's music? Have you ever given him a listen?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We worked with Steve Lillywhite, who did some work with Phish. I don't know the name of the album, but I bought one of my kids' friends, like many years ago, said, "Chris, do you know this band Phish?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard of Phish." And he said, "Well, they covered your album Remain in Light down in Atlanta."
Yeah.
And I have a CD of it. You want to hear it? And so,
What'd you think?
I actually went out and bought the, Atlanta show.
That's awesome.
They had it for sale, and I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
I was favorably impressed.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny because I'd misinterpreted something that somebody sent me because I had found there was a 2001 you joined an album called Sharing in the Groove, which was celebrating the music of Phish. And and Tom Tom Club covered Sand. And so when somebody sent this message to me, I was super confused and I texted Tom and I'm like, "I thought you wrote Sand." And he's like, "Yeah, we did." And I'm like, "Well, do you remember this?" And it took him a minute. He was like, "Oh my goodness, that's right." It took, he's like, "They're covering us now?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that from a while back or whatever." But,
Yeah, we were invited to be part of that record. And so we said, sure, why not?
Well, next summer when they're on tour, if you and Tina are around, I would love to bring you guys to your first show. Can we do this? I'll be in touch with your publisher.
Okay. I think you have my email address.
I do have your email address. Oh, I'm definitely, no, if we can really make this happen, that would be the greatest thing in the world. We'd have the best time.
Sure.
All right. So
I've seen some of your videos. I think you would have a great time coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, you would.
Oh, yeah, I definitely would.
We could put disguises on you so you're not bothered, dreadlocks.
I'll carry your drum kit.
Don't worry about that. We're just regular people.
I know. So I'm going to, I have 7 questions. We only have a couple minutes left. I'm going to sort of rapid fire questions at you if you're cool with that. Right?
Okay.
All right. Fantastic. So if you had a time machine and you could visit your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give? What do you wish you might have known then but you didn't know?
Don't change a thing.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I love it. Do you have a specific approach or a goal when you sit down at your kit? And what do you listen to while you're playing? I know that's not really the best, probably with rapid fire answering on that one, but.
Well, when I'm playing with a band, you mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I try to listen to the whole band, but usually in rehearsal, I'll start off just Tina and myself, and then other people make their contribution and add in. So I'm always conscious of the bass, the bottom end, but I'm also listening to and taking cues from various guitar parts or keyboard parts or scratching that we have. And we've worked with some amazing percussionists, Abdu Mboop and Steve Scales, for example. And when I'm playing with them, I'm locking in with them as well as Tina. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. Now, were these something like when you first started introducing drummers in, I believe I want to say it was Remain in Light, because it was one of those that you kind of making up as you go sort of thing. That's when you really brought that African, pull into it. Now, did you have the same drummers from Remain in Light with the big band as you did when you went and did the movie? No, the
percussionist on Remain in Light, other than myself, was Jose Rossi. And Jose was a session guy in New York, originally from Puerto Rico, and, really amazing. He played on the record on a number of songs, but he didn't play live with us. When it came to playing live, we got Steve Scales. And Steve is the guy that's in Stop Making Sense.
Okay.
He worked with us for many years, and then and also with Tom Tom Club. Yeah.
Jason?
It's kind of one of the questions I had. My number one question was, what are some of your favorite bands? Like, what do you put on to listen to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have very eclectic tastes and all kinds of stuff, but lately I've been listening to vintage reggae and calypso.
Wow. Nice.
I'm also very impressed with the new Bob Dylan album, I must say.
I haven't heard of it.
I was a Bob Dylan fan from Highway 61 Revisited, that album, and to me he's this new album is right up there with the very best of his work.
I feel like he's been sitting on some of those songs for, I don't know, 40
years. Yeah, somebody said it's been 8 years since his last album, and he might have taken 8 years to write this one.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Let's see. One second. Okay. What advice would you give to aspiring drummers in the early stages of their careers?
Well, my advice is to always.
Your bass player.
I mean,
first of all,
yeah, be nice to the bass player.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important to really listen to the song carefully and understand what the song needs, and not just don't try to show off your skills unless the song calls for that. Just be cool. That's what I'd say. Don't try to impress people with your sticksmanship. Listen to the song and make the song better.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of like the general out there.
Yeah,
you
right?
lead the whole thing. It's like a catcher on a baseball field.
Holding it all down there. So what's next for you guys? Are you like Talking Heads reunion or Tom Dum Club reunion, or what are you guys doing? What do you have?
Coming on tour with us.
Right, yeah, coming on Phish tour with us, those things.
That'd be fun. We could do that.
We would. We'd have a great time.
We're of a certain age now, so and this whole COVID-19 thing is such a drag. But we're thinking we might go into our studio and do something electronic, just the two of us.
Interesting.
Like Kraftwerk does, synthesizers, drum machines, totally electronic, something we haven't done before.
Yeah.
And something that, it would be new to us. And it would also be, if we had some success with it, which is very unlikely because
manifest. Very likely.
Don't you have a DJ in the house?
Right.
We do have a DJ in the house, but we could, instead of having 10 airplane tickets, there's only 2 airplane tickets. Instead of like 6 hotel rooms, there's only 1 hotel room.
Yeah,
like that. I'm trying to think of the up points of downsizing.
Right.
But we love our band, Tom Tom Club. They're wonderful people. I mean, we adore them. So I could be completely making this up, and the next thing we do will be a big Tom Tom Club stage show.
When was the last time you guys went on tour?
6 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's a long time, but for a couple of those years, I was writing a book.
Yes.
I'm sure you can dust off the kit. You'll be fine.
It's right behind you. Jump on it.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you all.
Yeah, it really has, Chris. And thank you. I just I've been excited about this. What month are we in? Are we on who
knows?
Yeah, a good 6 months now.
It's gonna be July.
Yeah. So I've been really excited about this, and just to connect with you and just to thank you because my life is all about the music, and you are a huge piece of that. So I really appreciate it.
Well,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No doubt about it.
Much respect, and give my best regards to those guys in Phish when you see them.
I will do that. We're getting steps there. I'm like,
oh,
yeah.
If you think I'm not going to name drop, you're sorely mistaken.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. It was so nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Please, and please tell Tina I said hello.
I will.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to her book too, so we'll be in touch. And when Phish goes back on tour, I want to bring you guys to your first show.
Thank you so much.
If you think we're not going to
have a great summer.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you. And all right. Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye for now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Phemale-Centrics. And we want to really, really thank, of course, Chris Frantz for being everything and joining us. Just this amazing influence on all the music pretty much that we listen to. And just in general, and for being so kind for sharing his time with us. And so all of you guys should go and check out the book. So July 21st, it comes out, Remain in Love. It's a fantastic book all about the beginnings of Talking Heads, Tom Tom Club, and him and Tina's beautiful love. So, and again, I want to thank Tom Marshall and Jesse Braun, Zach Berwick, Ari Fink, and Stephanie Jenkins for helping out with adding in questions. And Jason, thank you so much for adding in questions too and being part of this.
Yeah, what a sweetheart. I feel like I can relate to him on a 1/1000th scale, but it's like being involved in something with their wife. Hence what I'm talking about right now. I mean, we're not in a band, and we didn't create a genre of music.
Groupie thing.
Or play CBG. You said groupie. Shut up. And, I love you, and I'm glad to be here, and he's a sweetheart, and I can't wait to bring him to a Phish show.
Yes,
and,
we're going to do it.
Talking Heads is the best.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So thank you very much for listening. And remember that we are part of the Osiris Podcast Network. There's tons of new podcasts that are coming out with us. And so if you want to check them out, please go to osirispod.com. And we'll see you on the flip side, guys. Peace.